Good evening, welcome to another exciting video in the Artful Coder series on PHP. In my previous video we covered variables and some object-oriented programming in the forms of classes, and we create some car objects and we call some functions both on the objects themselves and across the whole list of cars. Now in this video I want to focus on loops. So for loop, do while, and while. Let me just explain a bit about the two. So we can tie this into an example. So different loops behave different ways. So let's have a look. Let's put some groundwork in. So let's create a new variable called private, and let's call this um, uh, performance specs, and we'll just leave it there. And within our constructor we're going to say dollar this performance specs equals, and we're just going to set it to a type of an array. So when you declare an array in PHP, you can do different ways. You say array like that, but use an eminent. The simplest way is just to simply put an open and close bracket there. So we've got performance specifications, and this could things like 0 to 60 in 3 seconds. Now let's just add a couple of methods in here. So we're going to want to add a performance specification. Let's say public add function add spec performance spec, and this is going to be spec, and all we're going to simply do is do, this is very clever. So what you can do is you can take dollar this performance specs, use your, so when you add to an array in PHP, there's different ways to do this, but one way is to simply use the same initializer after the variable name, equals and spec, and it is that simple to add to an array in PHP. So the other one we're going to want is function list performance specs. And all this is going to do is, we'll keep it simple, we'll show different ways to do this. So let's have a look. Let's do it with a for loop. So for loop starts with the word for. You have to declare a counter. Let's call this I equals 0. This could be count, counter. Doesn't matter what you want to call it. It's just the variable it uses. And then we say while I is less than, but what is it? What is it less than? And the reason you do less than because indexes in PHP start with a 0, whereas a count may be a 5. So it kind of works differently. So then you use a count function, which is an inbuilt function, count function, and then you say this performance specs, and then you say what's going to happen. So while this is going to loop through while it's less than that, we need to then increment our variable, and you can do this using an increment operator. So this is a very simple for loop, and it's just going to list over all those performance specs. And what we're going to do is, we'll just get very clever. We're going to say echo. You could do a return, but we'll do an echo. We'll say for and dollar this mate dollar this model. There you go. And let's just I now has following if he I will just put a BR in there as well to do that. This is HTML code. So we've changed our class. So we've got a performance spec we can add. We've also got a way to, well, we haven't, ignore me, apologies. So we say echo, and the way to access an array element is by its ID, if you like, its internal row number. So what we're going to do is we're going to simply say echo this performance specs, and this is how you access it. So you do an open square bracket $I, and then all we're going to do is go for BR, because it's HTML, it renders HTML. So what this is doing is we're adding the spec by saying the new operator. It's like an increment, add to a list array operator. We've defined that there. We then add our specification. We say for Ford Mustang has the following specifications. And then we use a for loop to loop round them. And that should do it. So if we come back over to here, let's just add, so car one dollar add per, let's get the name of it so I'm not, aircon. And let's do another one. Let's just copy that. Let's say it has leather seats. Seats. And let's just do a couple for that one. Let's call this central locking. And we could then save that. Let's just save that. And let's go to here and do w dot kev whatever dot kev site. Okay, that's from our previous video. So we've added a couple of specifications, so we've added that into the array there. It's not blown up on us, so it's worked. But then what I want to say is let's just do echo and then what I want to say is I want to take car 2. Hang on, car 2. There you go. And we want to say here, and we go back over here. So what we're going to do now is we're going to simply say call car1, and this shows you how each object you create of a class, and you do this with a new modifier, has its own set of properties and things within that object. And the best way to do that is to use the object name hyphen there. So we've got 2 cars, let's just say that. And let's just refresh that. There you go. So we can effectively see that our car, the Ford Mustang, has aircon, leather seats, Vauxhall Astra has central lock and an aircon. And that is a very simple way of using a loop to loop through data. There are other ways to it. You can filter these down as well, but we'll talk about array filters another time. So let's just try this with a simply different way. While loop. And let's just see if we copy this and we'll try this a different way. But what we want to do is see if they give the same output. So while, so let's say, uh, Let's create a variable called I. Let's call this I equals 0. And the way you have to do this is while $I is less than, and it's very similar the way it works, but it just says you have to write this all by hand. Okay, and then what we need to do is very important if you don't increment your increment. And all it's going to do is it's very similar. We'll just, this is where the difference is. No, it's no, it will work. Okay, so let's just swap those two functions out. So let me explain. That's our top level message. We're using a variable to keep track of where we are in the list. And we're echoing out the performance specification. And it's very important in a while loop to have an increment if that's how you're deeming how to exit the loop. Because if you just simply put something like while true, you'll get an infinite loop until either server times out your function call does. So let's have a look. So let's just swap one of them out, because what should happen is if I just do that, there you go. One of them is now using a for loop, which says for a set number under that, do an increment, off I go, happy days. And then the other one using a while loop, which is saying for performance specs. Both achieve the same thing, but this is a bit more if you know you've got to output or traverse data. Easy. So what does a do while loop do? So do while effectively says do something until something else happens. So let's have a go at doing public function list. I'll call this do while loop. And again, we'll just copy that. We're going to need a similar setup. And we say do and say while, and we'll just say that. Okay, right. There you go. So what is the difference between this, a while and a do while? A while will execute while the condition is not met. So if that was false constantly, it keep going, or if it's true, while the condition is not met effectively. But a do while says that at least once is it will come through here. So if you don't have any performance specs, supposing you've got a car 3, let's just create another car and say Vauxhall Mocha, and that's car 3. So let's just add, let's copy one of these. So let's not do that, let's just leave that there. So if we use this function, basically, if we do car 3, let's see what happens now. There you go. So it warns you because we've not added anything to our list. So it's saying that it's going to try and come through here, and without being within a condition or a for loop, it's going to complain about an error effectively. But then if I do add, say, car 3 equals that, and we'll just borrow that a second, and let's say it has a warp drive. Now if we rerun the same bit of code, there you go. Vauxhall Mocha has a warp drive. So that is the difference between a for, where it's designed to work within a set amount of iterations, a while until something happens, until a condition is met, and a do while where it'll execute once and then continue to process until told otherwise not to. Now you can have loops within loops. That's right, you can do nested loops. For example, let's have a look. Let's just say, how can we do this? So, just think the best way is because you could have these as a loop. Yeah, let's do that. Let's do that. So, what we're going to do is we're going to use our file here and we're going to say for each, let's just create an array. Let's call this cars equals and cars equal car 1, cars equal car 2, and cars equals, and if you want to see what it's done, let's just print array cars, and let's just see what we get. There you go. So it's just showing you what there is there effectively. So you can see there, just creates an object as an object array. So how do we then use this? And I'm going to introduce a new type of loop within PHP, a for each. So for each $car as is it as or in? No, it's cars. I think it's this as row. I'll tell you what I want to do is I'm just going to echo $row. Let's say what? Oh, let's see if that breaks or does it. Okay, there you go. So let's just do some echo b b so let's just refresh that. Okay, there you go. So we've got our there. So all that's saying is with my array of cars or my collection of cars, you could call it a car. Row is what I use in data. Let's just keep it simple. Let's call it car, not cars as car. So there you go. So then the other thing you can do is I was going to show you how to increment through them. So let's just say we want to do this. We want to use our for each loop on that one. We don't need to echo it out because it handles it in there. Just check that. Yeah. And then I'm going to bring this across here. But then let's just supposing I want to loop through again. So you could say I, and what we can do is we'll enhance this and we'll do, let's do public function get performance specs. just going to simply return $this performance specs. Okay. And this is where the magic happens. So let's say we want to say, well, we've got a car. That's how we can list it. But now what we're going to do is we could do a for each within a for each, or we could do this. So let's say specs equals car, do that. And you could say for, you can mix and match these, it's not a problem. I equals 0. Well, $I, always remember put your I is less than count specs $I. Okay, so let's just list the performance specifications of them. And we want to say plus plus. So let's echo. And what we're going to do, we're going to take a spec and we're just going to echo it out. So spec $I. And we're also going to put a break in here because we don't get it too messy. So what does this do? So let's have a look. There you go. So what we've demonstrated is you can see across all three of our cars, yes, we haven't got the same message in here, which we could add in. We've just said that we'll use a for each up here. We're going to then loop through each car that we've added to our array. We're then going to list each performance spec for that and output it screen. There's lots of things you can do. And yeah, so I just wanted to cover different types of lists because lists are very important when you want to store collections of objects. You're working with databases that returns an array of data, and that's all it's doing in effect is storing the string representation as an array, and you can basically see what's in that, what makes up that basically. And that's just been another deep dive into object orientation and the different types of loops. And I hope you found this video very helpful. So please stay tuned for more videos. Thank you very much.